Chapter 2: The Turbulent Teenage Years. Adolescence arrives not as a gentle transition, but as a torrent, sweeping David into a world of new freedoms, risks, and revelations. Chapter 2 traces his journey through canoes, camps, and curtain calls, where the lessons of brotherhood, belonging, and resilience are forged in the unpredictable currents of teenage life. Through triumphs and turbulence, David begins to discover the person he is becoming, shaped by both the shadows and the light of these formative years. After the storm of arrests, probation, and community service, life finally hit the brakes. No sirens, no courtrooms, just a whisper of calm. For the first time in years, the chaos around me lost its grip. 11th grade didn't begin with scandal. No announcements over the loudspeaker. No hallways buzzing with my name. It started with something almost unrecognizable in my world. A stretch of quiet that didn't feel like punishment. I wasn't a saint, never was. But I had stepped back from the cliff. No stealing. No running through strangers' yards with stolen beer. No blackout nights or morning after blood swirling in a school toilet bowl. For a brief moment, I was recovering, catching my breath between emotional landslides. Enter Gary Ethier, the unexpected catalyst. Gary Ethier was the neighborhood messenger boy, the kind of kid who floated between cliques with the ease of smoke. He was harmless, wiry, and always knew who liked who fought who, and who was about to get suspended. If Cahoes had a gossip hotline, Gary was the operator. One chilly afternoon, he introduced me to Marie Benjamin. Marie was technically in 8th grade, but nobody believed it. Maybe she'd been held back. Maybe life had demanded more from her early on. Or maybe she just carried herself with the quiet gravity of someone who'd seen more than the rest of us. Whatever the reason, Marie didn't fit the mold. And the truth? She was exactly the kind of girl I didn't know I needed. Gentle, plump but not heavy, long dark hair, a soft, earthy, hippie girl aura that made the noise in my head quiet down. Cute as an elf, the kind of cute that made you want to take care of someone instead of conquer them. And just like that, at 15 years old, I stumbled into my first real girlfriend. Our kingdom, Guptill's skating arena. Our dating life revolved around Guptill's skating arena at Bought Corners, a neon-lit disco time capsule where roller skates clacked on wooden floors and teenagers lived entire love stories under blacklight. The place smelled like popcorn, sweat, and cheap cologne. Music pulsed through those dusty, half-blown speakers. Organ riffs, disco loops, top 40 crackling like it was recorded underwater. Couples skated hand in hand like they were auditioning for Roller Boogie 2. I was terrible on wheels. But with Marie, I wasn't falling. Not physically, anyway. Love, or whatever passed for it in 1981, gave me balance. The hideouts, Reservoir Street and Sunset Park. When we weren't at Guptill's, we drifted to the older kid hideouts. Reservoir Street, where teenagers learned to kiss in the back of rusted Novas, and Sunset Park, a half-feral bluff above the abandoned reservoir at Cahoes Falls. Part sacred, part illicit, always magical at twilight. There, among wind-whipped trees and graffiti-carved picnic tables, Marie and I smoked pot, talked about nothing and everything, touched gently, clumsily explored the foggy borderlands between innocence and desire. It was that tender, awkward place where adolescence stretches into adulthood and nobody has a map. The clueless boy with a big mouth. Here's the truth every teenage boy hates to say out loud. I was clueless, completely unequipped. I mistook bravado for maturity, petting for intimacy, locker room lies for wisdom. I dove headfirst into physical affection, but had no emotional vocabulary. I was all hands and no heart, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't understand how to care. And then came the fatal blow. I bragged. Stupid, insecure, performative bragging. The kind of nonsense boys spit out when they think approval is a form of currency. Word traveled back to Marie faster than a rumor about a teacher caught kissing someone in the parking lot. She was hurt, furious, and rightfully so. 3 months later, over. The breakup crushed me. Not embarrassed, wrecked. This wasn't Connie's fire or Carrie's chaos. It wasn't lust in the hayfields or make-believe intimacy behind barns. Marie was my first glimpse of connection without crisis. She was a softness I'd never had, a peace I had no idea what to do with, and I had blown it. My immaturity had cost me something real. Little did I know. Looking back, it's almost painfully funny. I thought romance was made of pot, petting, swagger, survival, whatever foolishness my friends cheered for. I thought relationships were something you won. Marie showed me, without meaning to, that love was something else entirely. Presence, honesty, care, humility, quiet moments, unspoken bonds. Things I wouldn't find until years later. That first heartbreak stung like hell, but it planted the seed of a truth I'd grow into slowly. Love isn't measured by conquest. It's measured by care. And at 15, I didn't know the difference. But Marie taught me the cost of not learning sooner. Sidebar. Teenage romance, then versus now. Teenage romance has always been clumsy, electric, confusing, and overwhelming. The details change with the decades, but the emotional architecture remains remarkably familiar. 1. Then, slow build connections. Now, instant access, instant pressure. In 1981, relationships unfolded slowly through calls and notes. Today's teens face instant connection, instant intimacy, and instant heartbreak, all under digital surveillance. 2. Then, physical curiosity in the shadows. Now, exposure before experience. Kids once learned intimacy through myth and gossip. Now they're exposed long before they are emotionally prepared. 3. Then, limited social circles. Now, infinite, unfiltered influence. Your world was once 5 to 10 miles wide. Today's teens compare themselves to the entire planet. 4. Then, privacy by default. Now, privacy by negotiation. Mistakes used to fade. Now they get saved, shared, screenshotted, and remembered. 5. Then, breakups were contained. Now, breakups are public and perpetual. Teens process heartbreak under a spotlight with no reprieve from reminders. What hasn't changed? Teenagers still crave belonging, validation, attraction, understanding, and safety. Bottom line for parents. Teen romance is complex, but not impossible to understand. Listen more deeply, ask more gently, and help them decode the emotional noise. Author's follow-on note. Faith, morality, and raising Katie from a distance. For my daughter, and for any parent trying to guide a teenager through a world that moves too fast. Writing about my teenage years, especially the chaos of Cohoes High, the arrests, the drinking, the heartbreaks, the mistakes I kept tripping over, forces me into a strange duality. I'm looking back as the kid who barely survived it, and forward as a father who desperately wants to help his own child avoid that same storm. My daughter Katie is 14 as I write this, living in New York with her mom, growing up in a world that looks different than mine did, yet feels just as dangerous, just as confusing, just as full of temptations and invisible currents. And here I am in Arizona, trying to guide her not by proximity, but by intention. On religion and the weight of expectations. I grew up in a spiritual environment, church basements, hymns, Bible verses, the expectation that morality could be memorized like scripture. On Sundays, we were saints, and on Monday, we were back to surviving reality. Religion gave structure. It gave fear. Sometimes it gave comfort. But it did not give immunity. The truth is, people don't behave because they're told to. They behave because they are seen, heard, valued, understood, and loved. What I want Katie to know today is that faith, if she seeks it, shouldn't be a cage. It should be a compass, something she carries, not something that carries her away from herself. God, morality, spirituality, these are meant to be guides, not guilt trips. On social morality and the modern teen world. If morality was complicated in 1981, it's infinitely more tangled now. Teenagers today face moral theater on social media, instant access to everything, a culture that rewards performance over authenticity, pressure to be adult before they are ready, exposure to content no kid should decipher alone. What I learned the hard way, and what I want Katie to understand, is that morality isn't a list of rules someone hands you. It's a relationship you build with your own character. Morality is the courage to pause, the courage to choose differently, the courage to own your mistakes, the courage to protect your heart, your body, and your future. What I would say to my daughter: if Katie were here, sitting across from me instead of across the country, I would tell her this: you don't have to repeat my mistakes to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to impress anyone. You don't have to speed through your youth. You don't have to pretend you are invincible. You don't have to silence yourself to fit in. You don't have to give pieces of yourself away to be liked. You don't have to follow a crowd just to avoid feeling alone. And I would tell her something I didn't learn until far too late. Real strength doesn't come from rebellion. It comes from knowing who you are and protecting that person. On mentoring from a distance. Long-distance parenting is its own kind of heartbreak. I can't be there for the everyday things, the quiet moments, the slammed doors, the late-night fears, the first crushes, the disappointments, the doubts, the questions that come only in the small hours. And yet, despite the miles, I want Katie to know my love is not diminished by distance. My presence is not limited by geography. My guidance is not bound by where we live. If she ever stumbles, if she ever feels lost, if she ever feels the world closing in the way it did for me, I want her to know she can call me, even if she thinks I'll be disappointed, even if she thinks I won't understand, especially then. The final truth I want her to carry. What happened to me wasn't because I was bad. It was because I was untethered, unseen, unmentored in the ways that matter most. What I want for Katie is different. I want her to grow into herself with gentleness instead of chaos, with awareness instead of bravado, with courage instead of fear, with compassion for herself and for others, with faith if she chooses it, not as armor, but as a lamp. And above all, I want her to know she is loved, she is worthy, and she can always come home. Spending this time with me, the Pussycat Wizard. These moments we share, whether in shadows or in light, are threads in a much larger story, one I'm honored to tell with you beside me. As always, the journey continues. The next chapter subsection is waiting, and I'd be honored if you'd walk with me a little further down this road. Until then, keep the wonder alive, and I'll see you in the next episode of Little Did I Know.
In the quiet of my mind, a tempest rages. Mother's convictions, the script of ages. Her voice a beacon in the fog of my prose. David, she chides, in secrecy it goes. Beneath my breath, a silent plea. Mother, I hear you, but can you hear me? Your Savior, your faith you implore, I embrace. Yet within, I wrestle with my own grace. Torn between the divine and my truth. A son's love, a personal sleuth. Have you surrendered? You persistently ask. In your version of Jesus, should I bask? Jane, your call for aid. He's different, you say. A label pre-made. In your eyes I see the fear of a son's path, not straight but queer. Stand at the crossroads of self. My identity not just a book on the shelf. Mother, your love I'll always hold dear, but my journey is mine. Let this be clear.